Thank you for coming. Thank you for the very warm welcome to Atlanta. Yes. All right, I'm going to read from the beginning, which will sort of set up what the premise of the book is, and then I'm just going to read some sort of random ideas and my takes on breast cancer. Experts say that when faced with a personal crisis, every human will go through at least 2 of the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. When I discovered I had breast cancer, I was no exception. Dear God, what the bleep? Are you freaking kidding me? This has got to be some huge mistake. No, really? But why me, God? What did I do to deserve this? Was it my diet? My exercise regimen? The fact that I didn't have one? Did I do something morally reprehensible just when you happened to be watching? Hey, if I'm being punished, there are plenty of other people who deserve it more than I do, and I'm willing to name names. Wait, I got it. You can just undo this. You're God, after all. Well, if you think I'm going to be transformed into a better person, forget it. You just wasted a perfectly good case of early-stage breast cancer on me. Oh, and thanks for totally screwing up my summer. I guess you could say my relationship with God has been problematic for both of us. Okay, you know that the one-sided conversation is a joke, right? I didn't really believe I knew plenty of people who deserved it any more than I did. And although I had a lot of questions when I found out I had breast cancer, like, are you sure? Why me wasn't one of them. I didn't ask God for anything except maybe once when I was praying not to get dry heaves after someone came into a meeting with a container of Thai food. There's no more to be gained from pondering why you were chosen to get breast cancer than there is from wondering why you were chosen to have an overbite or facial hair or an extra toe. Unless you have the BRCA gene mutation that places you at much higher risk to develop breast cancer, the odds are you'll never know why you, of all people, got it. What the medical community really knows for sure about the causes of breast cancer could be printed on the back of a pink ribbon and still leave room for a coupon to buy a huggable stuffed animal from the breast cancer mall. Let's agree that we aren't going to waste any time on questions that can't be answered and focus on the ones that can be. The first question isn't, why do I have this problem? It's, how do I solve this problem? And the answer is you'll solve it the way you solve all the challenges you confront in your life. You bring a lifetime of experience, skills, and wisdom to breast cancer. We all do. Cancer didn't teach me lessons that changed my life. My life taught me lessons that changed my cancer experience, hence the title of this book. Breast cancer wasn't a journey that led me to anywhere worth going, and you will never hear me say I was glad I had it for any reason. It's true that because of breast cancer, I have met some wonderful and lovely women who have enriched my life, but while having coffee with 2 of them recently, we all agreed that if given the choice between having breast cancer or having one another as friends, we'd just as soon not have met at all. And sure, we learned some stuff, but all things considered, we'd rather just take a course from one of those online colleges or maybe go to the Learning Annex. This is not a book filled with look on the bright side advice. This is a book for women who don't have and don't want a spiritual makeover after breast cancer. We like who we are, and we like our lives, and we don't expect cancer to fix what's wrong with them. I was surprised to find that a life-threatening experience did not become a life-altering one. But now I realize it's completely life-affirming to want to remain who you essentially are, good traits and bad, rather than make permanent accommodations for a disease that you have to believe is just passing through. I came out on the other side of breast cancer pretty much the same person I was going into it. My only growth was the one removed by my surgeon. This book features many other women who share that view. We refuse to be pink-wrapped, infantilized, put on a pedestal, or put on the sidelines. We aren't looking for karmic reward for going through cancer. Survival is its own reward. Okay. I'm going to read about mistakes I made. And one of the mistakes I made was chat rooms, going to chat rooms. You'd be surprised. I made another mistake during the limbo period, one that I repeated several times during other stages before I got it through my thick head that this was not something that worked for me. Chat rooms. I visited several of them looking for online support. Weren't chat rooms a required part of the trip, a rest stop on the road of my breast cancer journey to a better me? The truth is, chat rooms were a disaster for me. They filled my head with the stories of women who were scared and angry and felt just terrible. They needed a safe place to complain or ask questions or seek reassurance, and they had every right to, but they were not the voices I wanted to be hearing. They frightened me. They weakened my resolve and made me question whether I was nuts to think I would get through breast cancer and just resume my life. This may sound like harsh talk, but I promise you there are plenty of women who fear and avoid chat rooms for the same reasons I did. We all have to do whatever we can to get ourselves through this traumatic, awful time without judging each other. If you do go to a chat room, keep tabs on how it's affecting your mood. Maybe just drop in for a visit without logging in or registering to get a sense of the lay of the land. There's a lot of useful information on some sites, but if you're going to pay a high emotional price to find it, you might be better off going to a site that is purely informational. I look at it this way. If a friend or acquaintance calls me because she has breast cancer and wants to compare notes and get my opinion, I never ever tell her things that I think would scare her or fill her head with doubts about what she's doing. I may suggest she ask her doctor certain questions, but why would I want to upset a woman who is in a fragile state? And yet, if you're in the chat rooms, you're very likely to read upsetting comments intended for someone else, but as frightening as if they were talking directly to you. It's as if a bunch of people are sitting around a campfire telling ghost stories that all involve you as the terrified co-ed who's being menaced by the crazed killer. Realizing that chat rooms were toxic to me was probably the first inkling I had that I was not going to live up to the media-generated expectations of how we do breast cancer. From the first visit until the last, my inner voice was shouting, "Danger, get out," but I ignored it because I thought it must be wrong this time. I was too caught up in trying to follow the script, and I thought the script said that I'd find the wisdom and comfort I needed in the chat rooms. Looking back on it, I think I was just trying to fit into the breast cancer community, but I couldn't find my place. I was lost in the space between the two worlds that Dr. Susan Love describes as the, quote, temporarily immortal versus the, quote, world of the defectives. Susan Sontag wrote in Illness as Metaphor that each of us holds dual citizenship in the kingdom of the well and the kingdom of the sick. I didn't feel as though I belonged to either kingdom. I clung fiercely to my home in the land of the healthy, and I refused to believe the residents who told me gently that I couldn't live in Healthyville anymore. It was shattering to my ego and to my sense of self. I'd spent my whole life there. I had a great place. I knew where all the best shops and restaurants and schools were, and I was happy in Healthyville. Couldn't I just get a short-term sublet in breast cancer world and then move back to my old place when I finished treatment? I could not imagine how I could possibly live in breast cancer world. But since it felt like the whole planet expected me to move there, I reluctantly gave it a try. I felt pressured to go meekly into the pink ghetto, but I couldn't stay there. I felt like an alien. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't find sustenance. I couldn't wait to get the hell out of there and back to Healthyville, even if I had to pass to blend back in with the locals. The point is, the pink bubble is not one size fits all. Don't assume that someone else's experience will be yours or that you're doing it wrong if you reject the expectations of those around you. What a relief it was when I finally understood that I had to avoid the chat rooms for my own sanity. It felt like a gift, and in a way it was. It was the gift of freedom to continue to be me, unchanged. As I write this, I know how lucky I was that I wasn't forced to move full-time into breast cancer world. I pray that my luck holds. I will be so angry with the cosmos if I have a recurrence of breast cancer. Then, chat rooms, look out. I will become the message poster from hell. But for now, the truth is I'm not so much living large in Healthyville as I am hunkered down on the outskirts of town, living on the wrong side of the tracks. In my new and far less pleasant neighborhood, the following is true. I get stomach cancer a lot, pretty much every time I eat raw vegetables. Luckily, it's cured by popping a Tums. All the little moles and freckles I've had for years can be melanoma in the middle of the night until my dermatologist tells me they're absolutely nothing. I don't want to be a hypochondriac, but the mind does go there sometimes. Every 6 months, I have the heart-pounding, sweat-inducing nightmare of mammograms and sonograms, which too often turn up something that needs further checking out, but so far have not found anything serious. Speaking of sweat-inducing, the drug I take every day, tamoxifen, makes me sweaty. I'm always too hot, which is not the same as having hot flashes, I know from experience, but it's only marginally less embarrassing to be constantly flushed and damp than it is to have it come on you with a dramatic and unexpected flourish. Half-moon-shaped sweat stains around your neckline look kind of great in the gym, but in the office, not so much. The bars here have a one-drink limit. If you're diligent about minimizing your risk of recurrence, you take seriously the findings that show that a relationship between alcohol consumption and breast cancer does exist. The same goes for soy products. Bye-bye Boca burgers and sayonara edamame. I loved you, but... And then there are the obsessive self-exams. I'm like a horny 15-year-old boy around my breasts, constantly feeling myself up. I search every square inch for lumps, which is ironic considering I never felt my tumor when I actually had one, or the benign growth I had on the other breast the next year. And yes, my part of Healthyville has an overabundance of plus-size stores for those of us who've become overabundant in the butt and thighs. I don't blame tamoxifen for the 10 pounds I've gained, but I do blame it for making it almost impossible to lose the weight. There is no scientific proof that tamoxifen or other hormone therapy, the aromatase inhibitors like Arimidex, cause weight gain. But it's such a common, almost universal complaint about tamoxifen that I have to say, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a woman on tamoxifen. Okay, now I have to clean this up just a little bit. Stand by. Well, you know, it's on a microphone, so. And there are children in the store. All right, I don't care. I'm reading it anyway. When you have breast cancer, the first thing a lot of people ask is some variation of what are they going to do to you. And by that, I had the clear impression they meant how much surgery are you going to need. Everyone assumes that you're going to live. It's just a question of what you're going to look like in a low-cut dress. The assumption in our breast-obsessed society seems to be that nothing could be more shattering to a woman than a mastectomy. After all, our very femaleness is at stake, isn't it? Or is it? I mean, obviously, a diagnosis of breast cancer is devastating. Any potentially fatal medical condition whose treatment involves amputating a part of our bodies is horrific. Remembering how angry and violated I felt after my lumpectomy, I can only imagine how much worse it would have been if my whole breast had been removed. But not necessarily because the amputated part was a breast. I can't say that it would be more painful to lose a breast than any other body part. I would hate to lose anything except for this loose bit of skin on my neck that makes me look like a turkey. Breast cancer for me was never an assault on my femininity. It was an assault on my personhood. Besides, it was only a temporary attack, unlike some of the real assaults on my femininity that I've been dealing with for years. If you're over 40, you know what I'm talking about. Random chin hairs, brittle bones, wrinkles, gray hair, and worst of all, that damned cloak of invisibility that falls over us when we enter a room full of younger women. Boobs or no boobs, you could be naked and nobody would notice. Although I never thought much about it until I had a lumpectomy, I realize now that I'm not one of those women who considers her breasts to be the home office of her womanhood. My femininity doesn't reside in any one place. It is me, the whole meanness of me, and it can't be sliced off in pieces. And yes, I do know something about having random female body parts surgically removed. When I had a partial hysterectomy years ago, a number of people asked me if I felt less like a woman afterward. I felt less like talking to them, but no, I didn't feel any less like a woman. As for my breasts, I was never one to focus too much attention on them. They were just sort of there where they were supposed to be, neither too big nor too small. If my body were a neighborhood, my breasts were the quiet, pleasant, clean-cut folks who lived next door and kept pretty much to themselves. I don't understand it, my stunned thighs would say on the local news after my lumpectomy. Those breasts never gave anybody any trouble before this. They looked nice in sweaters and low-cut tops, and once the braless look came in, they were happy to bounce around. I was unself-conscious about them. That was the relationship then, and pretty much that's the relationship now. In my world of body image issues, unself-conscious is tantamount to self-worship. Okay, should we talk about sex? What do you think? Oh, God. So good that my husband isn't here. That's all I can say. Good thing no one's recording. Oh, wait. Let me take a drink of water. Okay. It took nearly a full year for much of the swelling in my breast to go down, and it was probably the only part of me that did during that period, if you catch my drift. Throughout all the months of my treatments, my husband Dennis was very supportive and loving. He did seem to avoid contact with the battered breast, which was fine by me. When the breast finally resolved itself in its current shape, I asked him what he thought about it. "We never really talk about your feelings about my breast," I mentioned to him one day. "What's the point?" He shrugged. "It is what it is, right?" And then he asked me whether the flesh that had been removed would ultimately grow back and fill in the divot. "What am I, a starfish? A newt?" I snapped. "Humans don't grow new body parts when they lose them, dear." And to think he went to Yale. We haven't talked about it much since then. It's so lovely, so romantic when your husband still finds you desirable and wants to have sex during and right after treatment. But upon deeper consideration, there are two ways of looking at it. Let's face it, you know you look like crap. You wouldn't do you. So what does this say about him? That he loves you no matter what you look like? Or that he's an old horn dog? That he'll screw you even when your skin is green and your head is bald, and he knows perfectly well that sex is the last thing on your mind. My husband swears he is a deeply sensitive and enlightened man who found me just as sexy as ever. He even says most of that with a straight face. I have yet to meet a woman who's gone through treatment who said, "Oh yeah, the sex was totally incredible. Couldn't do it enough." If you're out there, please identify yourself and tell us all your secret. Sexuality during and even after breast cancer is definitely not just about the breasts. It's more complicated than having to decide whether or not to renovate your bust line. First of all is the way you feel. There's a description some women use for breast cancer treatment, which is slash, burn, and poison. Your body has been through some, if not all three of those, and it may be that the chemical effect of hormone therapy has to be taken into account as well. You're sore, you're exhausted, and you're not necessarily thinking, you know, what I could really go for today is a good old-fashioned roll in the hay. Who would want to have sex under those circumstances? Oh, right, your partner. This part's called duty booty. It's hard not to think of it sometimes as duty booty, though. If your partner is being affectionate and tender and finds you desirable, you don't want to tell him that, and this is nothing personal, you'd rather eat raw pork than have sex on that particular occasion with anybody. According to some of the cancer experts, you're supposed to opt for hugging, kissing, back rubs, and other kinds of physical affection that aren't, strictly speaking, sex. But it never occurred to me to ask if we could take the Chinese menu approach and do some substitutions. It was all or nothing for us, and it was more nothing than all during chemotherapy. And long after your treatment is over, your libido may still be low or non-existent. There are some drugs and creams that may help. But in my highly unscientific survey, those of us who get sticky and sweaty from hot flashes are not often desperate to get sticky and sweaty from sex. Some hot flashes are caused by hormone therapy like tamoxifen, in a condition also known as chemopause. And if you take a drug like tamoxifen, you may find that your sexual appetite has become an anorexic. On the other hand, if you are in the mood for sex and your vagina didn't get the memo, you can have a major issue with dryness. See, I told you this was going to be hard to read. Now, we all want to feel younger, especially during sex, but reliving the first time you had it, is it in? Why won't it go in? I don't know. Maybe something's wrong. That's not exactly a recipe for ecstasy. And if you've had radiation, I can tell you from personal experience that your breast does not want to be squashed down by a heavy, sweaty chest pressed against it. Nothing says good lovin' like a high-pitched, "Yo, get off my boob!" shriek directly into your partner's ear. Love me tender, or else. It might be better to have a conversation about it before it comes to that. I know what you're thinking. You mean I really have to tell my partner not to put too much pressure on that area? Is your partner a guy? If so, I'm thinking the answer is, sadly, yes. Not at first, of course, but after it starts to look like it's healed, he might forget how sensitive it still is in the heat of the moment. It always surprises me that people who can talk about somebody else's sex life night and day so often clam up when it comes to telling their partners what they really want and need. Look at it this way. If you don't talk about how you're feeling, your partner can't possibly know what you need. He'll get it wrong, and you'll end up resenting him, even though you know it's not fair. Now, when men have sexual performance issues because of surgery, like for prostate cancer, they take Viagra. It will shock you to learn there is no little blue pill for women's libido problems after breast cancer. For a while, it was thought that testosterone cream applied to the right area would help, but a Mayo Clinic study in 2007 disproved that. The report recommended that doctors do a full evaluation of their patients and look for vaginal dryness, depression, early menopause, and hormonal imbalance. Really, Doc? Why do you think they came to see you in the first place? Okay, that's enough about sex. Okay, I'm going to read about the gift of cancer. Did you ever hear someone, usually a celebrity with access to, well, everything he or she could ever want or need, describe breast cancer as a gift? The first time I heard it, I must confess, I was a bit shocked. I had no idea. I felt embarrassed. Where are my manners? Except I didn't know who I was supposed to be thanking for it. Environmental polluters, my mom and dad. I'm so confused. To tell you the truth, when my gift arrived, it seemed more like some junk mail that just sat there waiting for me to pay attention to it, like a 5-pound catalog from an auto parts chain or the September issue of Vogue. If it was a gift, it was even worse than a holiday basket filled with hickory smoked cheeses and specialty flavored Slim Jim samples. Then I got to thinking, well, maybe there's a cancer is a gift registry, and I didn't even know about it, you know, like for brides or mothers-to-be. You probably register online. Let's do it together. It's a little tricky picking out the gift of cancer for someone else, so for this exercise, we'll just say it's for us. Let's see. Of course, you'll have to choose a size, and believe me, girls, less is definitely more, so go for small. Next, pick out the kind of tumor you'd like, and here you'll have a lot of choices. Whew! Makes my head spin. When you're all set with your tumor, you get to choose a nice gift of surgery, something that fits your lifestyle. Now, do you want to be given the gift of chemo? Then don't forget to check that box. It shows you're truly committed. And if you want radiation, well, that's a big one. But maybe your friends and family will buy you sets of 5 until you've got the full set of 35. It's just like buying play sets of your china or silver patterns. You'll want to register for some insurance, no doubt, and, of course, a very good prescription drug plan. All these medications cost money, girls. Thank God for the registry. I wonder if you can register for those darling little yellow warning signs for your car. Tumor on board. I never believed the old adage, it's better to give than receive, until I heard about the gift of cancer. I mean, we've all gotten crappy gifts from time to time, but if you think cancer is a gift, you must really have a closet full of crappy stuff. If you think cancer is a gift, I hope you've saved the receipt. If you truly believe cancer is a gift, please don't come to my next birthday party. I guess you figured out that of all the maddening ways in which people try to search for meaning in the random meaningless that is breast cancer, nothing annoys me more than the women who declare that breast cancer is a gift. It's the social pressure to be the good, cheerful survivor taken to the extreme. Can't we all just get through a life crisis without receiving a gift at the end, something to make it worthwhile? Is diabetes a gift, or heart disease? Or is there only a consolation prize for playing Who Wants to Be a Breast Cancer Survivor? I've said that every woman should do whatever it takes to get her through cancer. It's not up to me to judge, and I'm not judging the women who say they're thankful that they had it, but I am compelled to point out that those women were given the greatest gift of all, good luck. Okay. Should we read one last? Oh, I'm going to read Cash Cow Barbie to the Rescue, and then I guess we'll say it's done. This is part of a chapter about cause marketing and about buying things that are pink that you may or may not actually need because some tiny portion of that money goes to breast cancer research. In the context of what it's really like to have suffered the trauma of this disease and to continue to live with its impact on our physical and emotional health, our sexuality, and our outlook on life, you can probably imagine the reaction generated by news that Mattel was rolling out Pink Ribbon Barbie. On blogs all over the internet, angry breast cancer patients railed against the insensitivity of promoting Barbie, plastic princess of perky tits, as the new symbol of breast cancer awareness. Using the retro icon of the unattainable beauty standard of our youth, huge high breasts, tiny waist, no butt, and long, slim, undimpled thighs to help women with breast cancer? Pretty hilarious. Breast cancer patients reacted with predictable snark and sarcasm on blogs and message boards from coast to coast. Why does she still have 2 breasts? Why isn't she bald? Where's the little pink toilet for when she needs to puke? And on and on. Other women defended Pink Ribbon Barbie as a lovely way to remind themselves to get their annual mammograms. I would have thought that Pink Ribbon Palm Pilot or Pink Ribbon Desk Calendar would have worked as well, but hey, what do I know? I do worry about these women, though. If they cling to Barbie as their style and beauty role model, I'd imagine they'll have a hell of a time if they ever do lose a breast cancer someday. I suppose if adult women need Barbie dolls to remember to get mammograms, that's okay. But with all due respect, Mattel, it's hard to believe that the average breast cancer patient is going to be all that excited by the news that Barbie is, quote, stylishly joining the fight against breast cancer, with her shiny hair cascading down her shoulders and her big boobs filling out a, quote, frothy pink organza gown featuring a sheer design and tiers of ruffles. How is Barbie fighting breast cancer anyway? Well, clearly she's working the streets, or at least the toy shelves for Mattel, with some of the proceeds going to Komen. But that's not all she's doing, bless her little heart. The press release announcing the doll helpfully points out that Pink Ribbon Barbie can serve as a communication vehicle to open a dialogue about breast cancer with children. Really? How does that dialogue go? Maybe like this. Kids, see this Barbie? This is what Mommy never looked like. And now that she's got breast cancer, she doesn't look like Barbie even more. As far as the fundraising ability of Cash Cow Barbie, well, thanks for all that, Mattel, but could you just write a freaking check to breast cancer research? Something is better than nothing, but $2.50 per $25 sale is not all that impressive. Barbie was created by Ruth Handler, who maintained that the doll's huge breasts would be good for the self-esteem of young girls unsure about their developing bodies. Barbie was probably the gateway toy to a future of distorted body image issues for me. But I'm not bitter, really. I got my first Barbie when I was about 7. She was clearly an aspirational doll, although we didn't have terms like aspirational back then. She was blonde, she had blue eyes, she had giant boobs and a tiny waist. I was short, I had brown hair and eyes, I had a giant waist and no boobs. She was a fairy princess. I was the little brown toad who gets ditched by the bigger brown toad after a princess kisses him and turns him into a prince. Still, I loved Barbie from the moment I saw her in her strange zebra-striped strapless bathing suit with her open-toed high-heeled mules. It wasn't weird to me that her earrings were pearls on a pin that you stuck straight into her plastic head. But there was one weird thing about Barbie. She didn't make eye contact with you. She would not return your worshipful gaze. The early Barbie's eyes were all created to look away, as if they were scoping out the room for some hottie to go over and flirt with. It was like being rejected by your own doll. Barbie as mean girl. Yeah, whatever. Dress me. Don't you know any cute guys, she seemed to be saying. Well, no, I don't. But hey, look, Barbie, I bought you the great cocktail dress with the red velveteen bodice and the full white satin skirt from the catalog. See, if you just look in my direction, I'd say to her silently. But no, there was no pleasing that heartless bitch. Screw it then, Barbie. I'm going to dress you in the red sweater and skirt outfit my grandmother knitted for you that I had to pretend I liked. Yeah, you're right. You do look like a librarian. Yeah, Ken's coming over. No, I won't put you back in your toreador pants and halter top. Like I said, I'm not bitter. All righty then. Hi, Chandra. Hi. Hi, girls. If anyone wants to talk, I'd like to say that one of the people in this book is Courtney Bugler, who's fabulous, who's here, and who helped me get this together. And these two people who are acknowledged in the front of the book, John Sinton and Laura Wilkinson. And thank you guys for coming. And if anyone has comments or questions, I'm happy to talk. Anybody? Oh, come on, Chandra. I know you have something.
Well, I should have something, right?
Come on. Well, okay. I don't have to answer anything. Yes.
I've got a friend who just got diagnosed, I think on Tuesday.
Yeah. Sorry.
Different types of tumors, just turned 40. How would your books help her? I think it would, just from what I've heard today.
Well, the book is sort of divided into two parts. And the first part is, the 5 lessons are advice from my life and advice woven in from other people. Courtney's got advice. A bunch of other people have advice in there as well. And I think the best message that I hope what people will take away from it is how to deal with doctors in the beginning, how to choose a doctor, how to relate to doctors, and for the people who love them, for them to understand how to talk to somebody who's got cancer without freaking them out, or without not talking to them, which is a different way of freaking them out because you're afraid you'll say the wrong thing. I wrote it. It's really two parts, and the first part is for women who have it or who love someone who has it. And the second part is a little more of the social and the political, because that's kind of what interests me about the whole breast cancer movement. So I hope you'll get it for her. I think it'll make her laugh. Laughing is good. Yes, sir. Thank you so much for sharing that. Bless you. Thank you very much for sharing that. Wow. Okay, who can top that? No one. No. Thank you for sharing that.
I have a question, from start to the end of your treatment, which I know is always going to be ongoing at this point. You went through a lot of different professional things at the same time. I mean, did you compartmentalize it?
Yes, completely. I was at Air America Radio. We had just started it, and we had a president to try to kick out. That was how I felt. It was 2004. And I went to work every single day, even during chemo. I can't say I worked at full capacity every single day because I didn't. But I didn't want to be home. I wanted to be doing what I thought was important. And I think if you stay home too much, you don't feel well, you dwell. I didn't want to dwell. So, yes, I compartmentalized like a crazy person, actually. And later, when I was writing the book, I had to unpack it all and figure out what I'd really been through and what I hadn't dealt with. And I did yoga, which was fantastic. It was amazing, actually. I'm so not that kind of person. And it was so helpful. It was really great. Okay. Thank you for listening, for coming. Thank you.